Have you ever noticed that exact moment when you are about to leave the house and you go to grab your keys? You panic because you're running late. You look all around the house, even in strange places. I'm talking the fridge, the sock drawer. You're looking in places that you know logically they're not going to be there. Just to walk back to the key ring and they're hanging up. You probably have a story like that. Or you probably have a missing sock. I feel like everyone has at least one pair of socks where you're missing the pair, you're missing the left foot or the right foot. That feeling from someone who has terrible memory issues is one of the worst feelings in the world. However, when it's supernatural, it's one of my absolute favorite phenomena to talk about because everyone has a story. If you ever want to kind of test the waters to see where, new people in your life stand on the supernatural or the paranormal, talk to them about their keys. Ask them where their socks are. And yes, some of them have completely logical answers. And a lot of times the answer is logical, but it is the number one easiest icebreaker to start talking about the paranormal. I personally deal with forgetfulness a lot as someone who has ADHD, but I do have two stories that I want to talk about because there's just too much. There's too much, right? There's too much synchronicities. There's too many things connecting it that I can't write it off to forgetfulness. And the first story I'm going to talk about is probably one of the most monumental, strange experiences that I've had because it was so direct. So the first object I want to talk about going missing is in high school. I had decided I was going to break up with my boyfriend, and I was trying to gather all of his belongings up, right? I wanted a clean cut, didn't want to do messy girl hours, and I couldn't find his class ring. And this is the most important, most expensive thing that I have of his, and I'm panicking because I know that I have like the perfect timing. I'm a very planned out person, believe it or not. And I had the perfect timing. I knew exactly what I was going to say. I knew how I was going to say it. I felt okay with it. But I couldn't find this ring. And this ring is literally the most important belonging that I have of his. So I remember tearing my room apart. I started crying. My mom came and checked on me. She helped tear my room apart and put it back together. And we had ripped my sheets off. We completely changed my bedding. We pulled everything out of my closet and put it back in. We emptied every single purse. And I remember she had decided to like go downstairs for bed and had told me like, hey, like we'll keep looking for it tomorrow. Like it might be somewhere else in the house. And I remember laying on the floor sobbing. I was sobbing. I felt so bad. Regardless of planning to break up with him, this is something that I know if someone had lost my class ring, I would have been heartbroken about. And I didn't want that to happen. So when I finally got myself together, after crying on the ground, and mind you, I was making agreements with everything. Like the heavens, the hells, anyone who would listen. I'm just begging the universe to please, 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 please let this ring be in my house. Like, let me find it. Let me not have actually lost it. And I went into bed. I had a queen size bed at the time, and I usually slept directly in the middle. I had a movie on, and I was getting ready to go to sleep. And I remember kind of like rolling over, and something scratched my leg. And I went down, and as a teenage girl, it's not weird for you to have like things wrapped up in your blankets, like just being completely messy. And I reached down and I whipped the blanket off, and his ring was sitting directly in the middle of the bed, right by my leg. It's what scratched my leg. Now, mind you, And I have someone to back this up because I wasn't alone. My mother was there. We had completely changed my bed sheets. We had torn everything apart, put it back together, spent probably the chunk of the evening, probably more than 3 hours at that point, trying to find this ring. And after all that, I finally gave up. I finally gave in and said, I need to get some sleep. And it was right there in the very middle of my bed on brand new bed sheets. I remember completely interrogating my mother in the morning of, did you put it there? Like, was it there? Did I miss something? And she claimed she didn't. And I genuinely, if there's a logical reason for it, I don't know what it would be. Soon after that, actually, is right around when I was 15, 16 years old. And now putting the puzzle pieces together is actually strange. So I broke up with him when I think I was 15, because he wasn't with me for my sweet 16. So I had broken up with him when I was 15. And towards the end of my 15th year, when I was turning 16, is when I started waking up in the middle of the night with night terrors that eventually turned into seeing spirits around my bed, which I don't think I've told that story yet on this channel, and I'm going to, because I want to talk about night terrors and night paralysis and dreaming and the dream state. And needless to say, right after the thing with the ring is when I started having all of my experiences in that home. The big experiences, the ones that you can't write away. I just put those two together. That's so creepy. My most recent experience with objects moving happened a few months ago. The story is actually already on this channel. It is about my little taxidermy duckling, Jolene. Jolene is a yellow taxidermy duck with a cowgirl hat on. She sits on top of a cabinet in the corner of my living room that is completely secluded from any other piece of furniture. The surface that she sits on is taken up by a giant castle, which we use as a DM screen for D&D, a lamp, and a few other objects, right? We do not believe in minimalism in my home. This cabinet itself does not have any open shelves. The cabinet is a closed cabinet, and it holds all of our dice sets for D&D. So there's no access for an animal to climb this, and you'll see why. So, have that picture in your head. Perhaps I'm showing you right now. I get home from work, and it is, I believe, February. That past winter, it's just this past winter, 2023, I had been having really strange things happening in the house. My husband and I had woken up to these large candy canes on our railing moving right in front of us. The sound of what sounded like children running around our home. Things moving, but not moving enough for me to say something about them. Weird feelings, a lot of electrical issues. So I say this because I was just getting home from work, daytime. Everyone thinks spooky things happen at night. Just got home from work, open the door. When you open my door, you look straight into my living room. There's a hallway straight into my living room. And the lights aren't on yet, but I see something on the floor. My first reaction is, oh, what did the cats get into? I turn the lights on. I realize that it's Jolene, sitting up perfectly, facing the door in the middle of the living room. We're talking a good, 2 yards away from the actual cabinet where she stands. My first reaction again is, this is really weird. My head didn't jump to the cats immediately. My first reaction was, this is really strange. I turn the lights on, I go to inspect, and of course I'm like, okay, oh my God, like, did the cats get to her? Because she is taxidermied, she was a real animal. I did not want the cats to have destroyed her. So I start investigating. I'm looking for bite marks, and she's pristine. She has all of this moss glued to her. She has all of this moss glued to her base that is not very sturdy. Like, this is a build your own duckling type situation, where it's like it's a professional taxidermy, but I put this base together. None of the moss was loose. Her hat was still on. Her bow was not crooked. There was no pieces of moss along the floor. So I did, I do, believe it or not, tend to have a logical mind. So if she would have fell from that height, there would have been an impact. It's very unlikely that she would have landed directly on her base, facing up, facing the door. That alone is like slim to none, but it's possible. If she would have taken that fall, her hat would have fell. Moss would have been a little bit of chunked on the floor. If the cats would have gotten to her, there would be bite marks, and there would be some moss. There would be some remnants. If you have animals, especially naughty cats like I do, you understand the kind of crumbs that they leave behind in their hunt. There was nothing. I went up to the surface that she sits on, and I kind of inspected, like, so is anything pushed around, because if there's not a lot of room for a cat to stand up there. One, I don't even know how the cat would have gotten up there. If they would have jumped, it would have been a pretty big jump, and something on the surface would have been moved as well, other than just her. And everything was as it was. I mean, there was nothing out of place. It was as if someone had perfectly picked her up, walked to the center of the living room, put her down. I take a photo, I send it to my husband, and I ask, is this a joke? He knows all of the stuff that's been happening in the house. He's been with me for 12 years. He's had many experiences because of living with me, and he swears he doesn't do it. And I know he didn't, because when you are someone who actually experiences the paranormal very regularly, the jokes just become annoying. They're not as funny anymore. They're not as scary, because all you're doing is invalidating the real experiences that we're having. So I know he didn't do it. It was really strange. I've never had in my home that I live in now an object move that boldly. I've never had something, genuinely since the ring incident, be so purposefully placed. And for as in tuned as I am, for any ability I have, no amount of mediumship or clairvoyance has given me any insight as to why the hell my duck was on the middle of the floor, other than things were just playing tricks. It was a very playful energy that entire winter, and I do think that it was just a last haha moment for whoever was hanging out with us this winter. Thank you for making it to this point in the video. If you are interested in hearing more stories or interested in me elaborating on any paranormal topic that you wish, I have a ton of stuff in this book that I would love to share with you guys. I just need a little direction to know if this content's wanted. So please leave a comment or message us or contact us on any of our platforms down in the description of the video. Like this video, share this video, and share your experiences. Also, don't lose your keys.